Can you all hear me out the back? Okay, I'll do my best. I've entitled this presentation that life is all about opportunity. And as a number of you know, I went around and did a bit of a quick vox pop to actually ask you about what life means to you in relation to opportunity. Some of you were a bit flummoxed by that question. Some of you gave me some really interesting information. And my job will be to try and tie together the threads, if you like, of some of the information I received from you into my presentation today. I have been asked to actually speak about myself, which is my least favourite topic. I'm much more interested in talking about how to create better businesses, better cultures, great sales teams, great customer experiences. But what I thought I would do is actually weave opportunity into my life and how I got to actually stand here in front of you today. Hopefully share with you some information of the things that I've learned along the way, that I've thrown myself into finding opportunity, that may be able to help you realise the opportunities that are important to you. I want to share with you the 4 pillars that I use to actually guide my life and help me to prioritise things that are important to me. A number of you mentioned to me when I interviewed you just before that there's lots of stuff out there, there's lots of opportunities out there. It's which ones to choose, it's which ones to go after. So I think prioritisation is a really important skill. Some of you also mentioned that it's really challenging to know what you should be doing. What should I do with my career? I didn't know what I should be doing with my career until I was about 33 years of age. But what I did do is throw myself into life and find opportunities to explore what it is that I was good at. I threw myself into all sorts of things to understand how things work. I made sure that I kept asking questions, and I never lost my inner 6-year-old who loves to find out new things and how things work. I mean, does anyone have any young children in their midst at the moment? A few of you? Okay, we've all been there ourselves. A couple of questions about these young children. First question is, do they like to ask questions? Of course, yes, they never stop asking questions for a long period of time. The second question is, do they like to be helpful? I'm not saying they actually are helpful, but they like to be helpful. Okay, they like to be helpful. They like to know how things work. The third question to you is, if you promise them something, do they have a memory like a steel trap and they will hunt you down until you've coughed up whatever it is you promised them? Okay, these children have all the makings of what it takes to realise opportunity. It's just as we grow older, a number of us seem to shut that inner 6-year-old down and preclude ourselves from going and using those qualities, slightly more professional version of course, but using those qualities to actually realise opportunity. Does that make sense to you? So what I thought I would do is share with you where I've come from, what I've done, because my inner 6-year-old is just a slightly more grown up and older version, a few more wrinkles and more stories to boot, but I never lost sight of her. She's been my best companion I've ever had in my entire life. But she has been mentored and stewarded along the way by really wise people and some not so wise who she learned from as well. So if it's okay, I thought I would share the 4 pillars and also how I started my business and created the Selling Better movement. Does that sound like a plan? All right. I'm afraid I have something like 20 minutes to do that in. I'll see how I go. All right. I actually grew up in Geelong. Go Cats, just saying. And it's a genetic predisposition, just so you know. I grew up in Geelong, and I was very lucky to grow up in a middle-class family. My father ran a business of 120 people, so I've grown up in family-run businesses. And for any of you who've done that, you know what it's like. Business is taught to you from when you were born. And I was always curious and interested about business. But I also had a mother who didn't know it at the time, but she was Montessori oriented, in that she taught us how to be very handy people. Whether we were boys or girls in our family, it didn't matter. Gender didn't matter. What it was about being able to be useful, be someone of agency and purpose. And so what we were able to do is discover all sorts of things about ourselves. So we were thrown into sport. My father was a brilliant sportsman. Even at the age of 77, he was still hitting 77 off the stick. Just say, if you know about golf, that's a very good score at that age. And he taught me about mastery, he taught me about persistence, he taught me about getting better each day. My mother gave us the opportunities, and she also made sure that, we could learn music and we could actually go out and learn different sports. I'm also playing hockey now, which I took up 5 years ago. I actually was an elite swimmer. I swam at state and national level about 40 kilometres a week for about 10 years of my life. That teaches you about resilience and teaches you how to toughen up. And it teaches you when things get tough. Remember that terrible session that you had to do with that coach back when you were 14 years of age. You can get through that, you can get through anything. Do you know what I mean? It teaches you these sorts of things. I also got exposed to art. I got taken to sewing classes. I learned how to sew from the age of 6. I learned how to knit and to crochet. And basically all of us learned how to learned how to cook, learned how to clean houses. My mother, she was actually very clever. We were so buggered at the end of the day, we'd all go to sleep at night. She made sure that we as children weren't overstimulated, but we were doing things that were useful. So we're a very handy family to know, because we can apply ourselves to all sorts of things. We think we're the best at it, but we've got good coverage. Does that make sense? So I was really blessed with the opportunity to grow up in that kind of environment. And to also have parents that allowed me the opportunity to pursue things that were important to me. I wanted to be a good swimmer. So my father would get up every morning and take us to swimming training 5 mornings a week. We'd get up at 5:15, so as you probably gather, I'm a morning person. We get up at 5:15 by training or whatever it is, but we got up at 5:15. And my father actually, even though he's running his own business, he would do one of two things while he waited in the car for us. He would basically sit there and either do his paperwork, because there were no computers back then. He would sit there doing all the books. Or he'd go down to the practice fairway when it was light enough, and he would hit ball after ball after ball after ball, which is why at 77 he could still hit 77 off the stick. He never took his talent for granted. So I thank my father for my sporting prowess. My mother's not as talented at that stage. But I thank my mother for the organising that she is, the prioritisation she gave me, the handiness that she taught us. So that was how I grew up. So I was presented with lots of opportunity, and I was one of those children that took them and I just gobbled them up. And I made sure that I made the most of them, and I really enjoyed my childhood. As I grew up and became a teenager, I ended up moving to a boys' school that turned co-ed down in John. This is in the late 70s. So I grew up in the women's movement. And I grew up, about equality. And I still fight for that these days, and I think we have to fight for it even more. But I am a feminist because I believe in equality and equity for people. And I will always present that part of me, and I'm not frightened to do that. So I went to a boys' school that turned co-ed when I was 14 years of age. There were 8 boys to 1 girl when I went to this school, and they hadn't seen us other than across the road at the other girls' school. But we were kind of a curiosity. And that was a mixed blessing in terms of opportunity, because sexism was right. There wasn't a week that went by we weren't touched or made some comments about, but it was the 70s after all. That's what you put up with. Although my dad did say that if it got a bit out of hand, keep your thumb outside your fist, because when you punch him, you won't break your thumb. All right? So, but you had to somehow protect yourself, and these are the sorts of things that you would learn to do. But at this school, it was very interesting because I love learning. My initials, SB, basically ended up at this school standing for suck brain. And it wasn't said with loving kindness. Okay? They basically called me suck brain because I was like Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. My hand would be up answering questions, asking questions. I was this inner 6-year-old had died. And I do remember at the age of 15 knowing that this wasn't a popularity move. However, I was very handy, remember. So they needed girls for the sports teams. They needed girls for the art competitions. They needed girls for theatre. And guess what I could do? So I was a handy girl to have around. I may not have been popular. And I remember very distinctly having a bit of a chat with myself in the common room when no one else is around, going, I have a choice here. I have a choice to either dumb myself down and be popular, or I have a choice to pursue my love of learning and hang the consequences. And I did a bit of an inventory on the fact that I was a handy person to know, and I weighed it up, and I went, bugger that, I'm going for the learning. I will carry suck brain with pride. It may not give me popularity, but people pay me now for my suck brain, so I'm actually quite happy about that. But this is the thing, we get faced with opportunity, and sometimes opportunity doesn't come dished up on a platter to you in some beautiful sort of decorated, with a pink bow or anything like that. In fact, opportunity is often found through adversity. Opportunity is, in fact, when you stop and you're having a long, dark night of the soul and you're not sure where you should go and what you should do, and things really feel miserable, that you can actually stop and choose to either be a misery guts and become a voluntary victim, or you can choose to find the opportunity in it. And you probably gather which one I have chosen. It doesn't mean I haven't had a bit of a whinge and a moan and a cry and all those sorts of things, but I actually have chosen to go out there and pursue opportunity and not be held hostage by circumstance or feel like I should be a victim in any way, shape or form. And I thank my parents for that lesson. I thank the teachers at my schools, because the teachers loved me at school. At least someone had my back for me, you know. Maybe not my peer group at the time. But it's been really interesting, that journey. And look, it was a bit of an introduction to corporate Australia, going to a boys' school with 8 boys and one girl. So I've actually learned how to handle myself. And the other thing, don't forget, that I was about this tall when I was 14, swimming 40 k's a week. I was strong. I could kick a footy further than them. I could run faster than them. I was a very able and active person. And so let me come to the 4 pillars. It's what I've actually cultivated and developed and formalised, if you like, in my early 30s to help guide me and help me make decisions about priorities and how I actually pursue opportunities. The first pillar, and the most important one, and you might think it sounds strange, is your well-being. Is your health, both physical and emotional and mental and spiritual. Because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anyone else. And I'm a person who works for the good of others. I work in service of others. And if I don't look after myself and I don't take care of my health and well-being, then I burn out and then I'm no use to anyone. I mean, I've been running a business for 22 and a half years. I've had 2 children in that time, and I had 1 week's maternity leave for one and 3 weeks for another. Doesn't make me a hero. It was circumstance, and I had to make it work. So my partner, he and I, and we had Elsie, who's now about 85 years of age, who's been with us for 16 years. The 3 of us made our unit work. We created an opportunity that could work, that we could create a situation that could work for us. So when my eldest son was about 6 and he was at school, he said, "Oh, Mum, why don't you turn up every day to the school, gate to pick me up?" And I said, "Well, look, we just have a different way of handling things." I said, "You have Dad sometimes, you have me sometimes, you have Elsie other times, and those sorts of things. It's just a different way of doing it." I said, "Do you see lots of fathers picking up their children at the school gate?" He goes, "Well, no, not me." I said, "Well, that's the choice that other families are making." I didn't want to degrade it, I didn't want to belittle it, because there's no point. It's just the choices that we made. So I am not necessarily someone who is beholden to how we should think around here. I like to learn how to think for myself, not be told what to think. So I make my rules that serve and work for me. So what I do, it's not a day that goes by in my entire life that I haven't done some form of exercise. I travel sometimes, and of course you find yourself in some of those hotel rooms that don't have a lot of space, maybe about a patch this size. I've got a fantastic 45-minute yoga routine that I can knock out like that. All right, and it keeps me fit and healthy. Even if I don't feel safe walking out in the streets, I can still do something every day. I can, I have meditation. A lot of people go, "Oh, I've got to sit there and do this." That's when you've overcooked the goose, quite frankly. I've had to stand in some taxi queues. I catch the train now in Sydney, but there were times when, before the train, I would stand in a taxi queue. There'd be 300 other of my best friends there. There'd be people getting frustrated and agitated. I chose the opportunity to do what I call my taxi queue meditation. Because why can't you? Nothing stops you from actually creating something better out of something that may not be as pleasant. Don't think I get it right all the time. I do have an occasional whinge and probably get a bit cross in the car occasionally. But I do try, at least, to do my best and make the best out of something. So your health and well-being is incredibly important. And that's why I put a lot of emphasis on that. And look, for many years, probably once a month, once every 2 months, I make sure, because I lead a team of people and we do a lot of work around, psychometric assessments and coaching and everything. I make sure that I go and visit Lynn. Now, Lynn's a family therapist who I've known for many years, but I go and visit her once a month or once every 2 months because it's really great for me to have space to be able to capture some of the stuff that may not be working for me, or that things I just need to get off my chest that I can't share with anyone else. Does that make sense? Because I lead a team, it's not their business to know how I'm feeling in some of these darker moments, or just because I'm whatever I'm at that point in time. So I take the opportunity to have my mental health cared for, if you like, and supported through various means. But keeping healthy and well, incredibly important, both mentally, physically and spiritually. I'm very agnostic. I don't have any form of religion that I follow. I don't deny anyone else's right to follow any religions. I made that choice about the age of 8. I grew up in a Catholic family and I chose not to be religious at all. But I still believe that there is a higher purpose about how we work with each other. And so I've had to find that living a faithful life without a faith means I have to be able to think for myself and not be told what to think. So that's a choice that I've made. When it comes to the next pillar, it's family and friends. You read stories out there about these highly successful people who are incredibly ambitious and achieve amazing things. But if you look under the surface, chances are they've had to sacrifice a whole lot of other things along the way. I don't want to sacrifice my family or my friends or my health or my well-being. So I have chosen to make sure that I have a safe space to come back to, that I'm a leader and steward of my family, that I raise my children in such a way that they actually can make informed decisions for themselves and those sorts of things. I've chosen not to sacrifice having a family or having relationships with people at the expense of being some famous whatever business person out there. I love my family. It does complete me, and it is something that I really appreciate. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I understand that, but it's my choice, and that's how I've created opportunity. The other thing that I want to look at, that's the other thing about opportunity with families, and also any relationship, to be frank, is that relationships are all about finding the good ones. Good relationships are designed to be stress tested. My partner and I, he and I have been together for 27 and a half years. We met at the National Masters Swimming title swimming, okay, and not much left of the imagination, but we met there. And essentially, you know, our relationship goes through ups and downs. It goes through difficult times. I mean, God bless him the other day, he's a high-functioning Asperger's person, he's an engineer, he's incredibly intelligent, and we were just walking the other day saying how proud we were of our children, and he made some comment, he goes, I just have no idea how we got there. I went, well, I do. You know, I had a plan. I had this plan about what we were doing to, you know, raise children. But he takes care of all the IT and the sort of fuzzy logic systems with machinery. I just do the people side of things, and we make a good team. But you have to work at relationships, client relationships, business to business, peer relationships, personal relationships that require you to actually put a lot of effort in and to go through those tough times, find the opportunity about how it can move forward. That's what good relationships are about. Then, of course, is your vocation. And this is where I started my business. It took me many years, until I was about 33, to work out what I really wanted to do with my life. But I threw myself into jobs. But here's the thing. Don't just go in for 5 minutes if you don't know yet. Stick at it something for a period of time. Work out how it works. You may not like it all the time, but work out how it works, because that will serve you down the track. Not everything has to be sunshine and roses and, you know, it's all really lovely and pretty. It's tough. Learn about how you can deal with challenging situations. You can find the opportunity in sticking with something and learning from that. So at 33, I gave up my job with Morgan & Banks and spent 7 years there working in recruitment of salespeople. I'm very good at seeing patterns in the world. And basically what happened was I wanted to actually put humanity back on the corporate map, and I wanted to actually redress the S word. Selling has a very bad reputation out there. It creates all sorts of problems for people, yet everybody lives by selling something. So when my eldest son was 11, he said to me, Mum, I don't believe that everybody lives by selling something. And I said, you know, that's interesting, why do you say that? And then he tried to persuade and convince me why it wasn't true. And I said, but by the very nature of you trying to persuade and convince me, aren't you trying to sell me something? He went, oh yeah. So if you've got an idea, if you've got an initiative, if you've got something you want to take to a colleague, you know, a family member, a client, doesn't matter where, to the world, to the UN, I don't care. You've got to know how to engage people. You've got to know how to create opportunity. You've got to know how to ignite something for them to want to talk to you about. So this is all about opportunity. It's a life skill that we need to have a look at. So I've made the last 22 and a half years of my life dedicated, and will continue to do so, to mapping and understanding what good selling is. Because selling exists on a spectrum. And unfortunately down this end of the spectrum, we have the devious, the dubious and the desperate. And they're all after victims, not prospects or clients to do work with. They just want to be able to take advantage of you. And you have to be mindful of those people, because they can look really charming, some of these people. Yet the rest of us are here. Up this end we have the ignorant, the ill-informed and the irritated by selling. But they've got to get over this, because if they want to do good work and create opportunity, they've got to learn how to do this part of their life. And then you've got us in here, in this zone, who have kind of got the message. We're commercially savvy, we're client-centric, we're collaborative, we're about helping people. And I want to extend that out here, all right? I want to grow that. And that's the passion. That's why I've started the Selling Better movement, not just selling more. It's about selling better. It's about having good strategy, having good process, having people that are capable and able of actually going out there regardless of your role. Could you imagine in your organisations if you could double, triple, quadruple your sales force overnight without having to put a single person on board? Do you think most CEOs would be happy to listen to that? Absolutely. If people embrace what good selling is and are part of that opportunity and they know what opportunity looks like for their organisations, they can be there to stop them. Think about your inboxes, think about your phones, think about your desks. How many client opportunities are currently sitting there that no one's picking up on at this point in time? And if you did, what would happen to the bottom line of your business? Does that make sense to people? So it's about seizing the opportunities and actually carrying it forward and having purpose in life. I love helping people and businesses sell better. That's what we do, and that's what the Selling Better movement is about. And I've made a business of that and work across all sorts of industries and businesses there. The fourth thing is creativity. I am a very analytical person, but I'm also a very creative person. My mother will tell you that I sang and danced around the house all of my childhood. And if I could, with my Derwent colouring pencils, I would find some picture somewhere and copy it in such a way that I could actually look at that picture and I could sketch it out with my colouring pencils. I loved doing that. Now, when you've got a family and you're running a business, these sorts of things can take a back seat, but I've never let them take a back seat. They may not get always as prominent attention as I would like every week, but every Saturday I go and have a singing lesson, which is why it's good practice for me to have my voice projecting out here. I also love doing theatre and musical comedy and those sorts of things. And so I don't get as much time for that because it's a 3-month thing, but I love doing theatre. I love throwing myself out there and being able to play roles I'd otherwise get arrested for on the street. Okay, so that's what's great fun about that too. And so don't chop off these things. Find those things. They're good for your heart and soul. You don't have to be paid for any of this because it is about just enjoyment and actually enjoying life and weaving those things together. So this is about how I create opportunity for myself, how I focus myself out there, how I develop skills and capabilities to be able to use at any given point in time. Because I don't care where you are or what you're doing, if an opportunity presents itself, do you know how to ignite that? And so this is the sort of thing where we get together, we're here to network with each other, we're here to share ideas, we're here to talk about how we can possibly help each other. It's all about opportunity. So I thought I'd leave you with a couple of things. That little story that I would like to share with you. I also have some decision-making questions that might help you be more discerning when you're looking at opportunity. So, the other thing too is don't wait for it. Go out and find it. Everyone's too worried about themselves to worry about you. You've got to create your own opportunity. There's a fantastic parenting book I read and I still have and I loved it. It's called Kids Are Worth It, Giving Your Child the Gift of Inner Discipline. And the book is designed primarily around the fact that when children are with you, of course it's important what they do while they're with you, but it's even more important what they do when they're not with you. So how can they make decisions so that they can realise opportunity but not kind of proper, if you like, as a result of doing it? So here are the 3 questions out of this book. Not the only thing that's in this book, but here are 3 questions that might help you when you're looking at opportunity and making decisions about it. The first question is it life-threatening? The second question is it morally threatening? And the third question is it unhealthy? And if you get a yes to any one of those questions, you may want to rethink your decision. But that's your choice, not mine. So the interesting thing about the morally threatening one is in business today you'd be mistaken for thinking it's all about just making money. But we've got people out there whose careers they want to do good. They want to do good work. And then there are some people out there who want it to be all about them. And they're entitled, and it's a bottomless pit. It's infinite. They will never be satisfied. They'll always be searching and grasping. And I don't want to live my life like that. Being of service requires sacrifice. It requires discernment. It requires prioritising things and sometimes putting some things off because you can't fit it all in at any given point in time. But I use my pillars to help me make better decisions. I use 3 decision questions to help me make decisions so I can continue to realise opportunity. So I'd like to finish with a little story. So, how do we make the most of life's opportunities? Here is a salient story to remind us about the danger of missing opportunities and leaving it in others' hands. The priest of the local village was busily preparing his church for the daily mass when he noticed that the big rains that had been forecasted had arrived in full force. The waters were rising rapidly, and the people in the village were preparing to leave. However, the priest was still tending his preparations for mass. He came out the front of the church to see many cars packed with people and possessions leaving the village. The driver of one car, with space for one more passenger, called to the priest, "Father, please come with us. The waters are rising and we do not want you to die." The priest replied, "My son, do not worry. God will save me." The driver shook his head and drove away. The rains kept falling harder and harder. The waters rose and flooded the church. The priest climbed up on the window ledge to keep himself dry. As he looked out the window, he saw a rescue boat going by looking for any last survivors. The people in the boat saw the priest and called out, "Father, please come with us. The waters are rising and we don't want you to die." The priest replied, "Do not worry, God will save me." The people in the boat shook their heads and floated away. The rains kept falling harder and harder. The waters rose so high that you could only see the steeple of the church and the priest clinging to it. He looked up to see a helicopter with a rope dangling down sent to rescue him. The people in the helicopter called out, "Father, please come with us. The waters are rising and we do not want you to die." The priest replied, "Do not worry, God will save me." The people in the helicopter shook their heads and flew away. As expected, the priest drowned, and when he arrived in heaven, he asked God, "I have served you all my life. Why did you forsake me and let me die?" God replied, "I did not forsake you. I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter. What more could I do?" So, do not let opportunity pass you by. And even when things are tough and life seems unfair, ask yourself, where is the opportunity in this? As you could probably guess, my mother said, there is no such word as can't. So ask yourself instead, what can I do here? How can I make this a better situation for me and for others? And even when no opportunity seems evident, that is when we need to stretch our horizons, shift our perspectives, open our minds, and look at how we can create opportunity instead. So please don't close your minds. Read widely and become small W worldly person, because we need to be open to opportunity every day. The opportunity to improve, be better as individuals, teams, businesses and societies. The opportunity to do good work and be of service to others. For me, opportunity has always been about defining what our lives mean to each of us, not conforming to what others say it should mean. It's all about opportunity. So be a bit adventurous, go out on a limb, because opportunity is always right in front of you. Thank you very much.